What are prophecies? Well, prophecies are what people with supernormal abilities see in other time spaces that exist simultaneously with different concepts of speed. Remember the film Back to the Future, in which Michael J. Fox travels back in time to the 1950s and saw his parents' teenage years? Well, he didn't actually travel back through time. He went in another time space existing simultaneously, in which time is slower. Consequently, he was able to see what happened in the past. Similarly, there are time spaces in which time is very fast, and the future exists there simultaneously. People with supernormal abilities can see things in other dimensions. If they can see the space with a very fast speed, they have then seen the future. If they could see the space with slower speed, they see the past. That's all. Modern science still cannot break through our time space, so it's still very limited. Everything our modern science accomplishes exists in this time space only. But cultivators of spiritual practices can see other time spaces, and they have this ability. However, people with this type of supernormal abilities are not allowed to disclose what they see casually. They're held against a higher standard or higher moral standard. Their abilities will be shut down if they use them for profit or fame. If they use their abilities to raise moral awareness or general awareness in society or to help good people, that's allowed. However, when they do tell people about the future, they usually tell it in an obscure manner, and that's intentional. And this is true in both Western and Chinese prophecies. Most of the Chinese prophecies are written in classical Chinese poems, which are subject to interpretation. The same is true in the West. Nostradamus, the 16th century French astrologer, is probably the most famous prophet in the West. Nostradamus wrote, I think, over 900 quatrains, and he published them in his famous book, The Prophecies. The book was published in Lyon in 1555. So here are his predictions for 2025. He seemed to have predicted the Russia-Ukraine war by saying this: through long war, all the army exhausted, so that they do not find money for the soldiers. Instead of gold or silver, they will come to coin leather, um, Gallic brass, and the crescent sign of the moon. He also predicted what would happen in the United Kingdom. He said, when those from the lands of Europe see England set up her throne behind her flanks, there will be cruel wars. The kingdom will be marked by wars so cruel, foes from within and without will arise. A great pestilence from the past returns. No enemy more deadly under the skies. So it sounds like it's suggesting that England could face a devastating war and the resurgence of an epidemic in 2025. Another person in the West who's famous for her ability to see the future is the Bulgarian mystic and healer Baba Vanga. She was born in 1911. Her eyes were injured in her teenage years, and she went blind. She left behind many predictions, many of which came true, including her own death in 1996. Her predictions for 2025 are also unsettling. She saw major conflicts erupting in Europe, leading to widespread instability. She predicted natural disasters such as earthquakes and floods, which would impact various regions globally. The most astonishing one is her vision that humans would encounter extraterrestrial beings, suggesting that humanity would come into contact with aliens in 2025. Didn't we just see large amounts of unexplained flying objects throughout the United States and also in Asia that were suspected to be UFOs? So does that mean that her predictions have come to life? This gentleman is Craig Hamilton Parker. He is a British psychic who has predicted Brexit. He also predicted the election of Donald Trump in 2016, Theresa May's resignation, followed by Boris Johnson's rise to prime minister. He also predicted Queen Elizabeth's passing, as well as that Joe Biden would drop out of the 2024 election. He has been referred to as the modern day Nostradamus. Recently, he made a prediction about China, and sometime between the end of 2024 and the end of 2025, China's economy would suddenly plummet, affecting the global economy. He predicted that social unrest in China would intensify, eventually leading to a revolution and possibly even a civil war. He envisioned the disappearance of the Chinese Communist Party, replaced by a democratic society. Parker predicted that the revolution would not impoverish China. On the other hand, on the contrary, it would result in the emergence of several prosperous democratic nations on Chinese soil. He described a vision that he had during a meditative state, in which he initially saw China as a muddy swamp. Then a group of women began performing a beautiful dance on the swamp. Parker said he had this vision as early as 2010 and felt that China would undergo a massive transformation, primarily a cultural awakening that would finally allow China to break free from the muddy swamp. I think the dancers that he saw, that he referred to, probably is the Shenyun dancers, who is the largest performing arts group trying to revive traditional Chinese culture around the world. They're actually performing around the world. And then they are established by Falun Gong practitioners, right? So Parker did mention Falun Gong in his speech. So speaking of prophecies concerning 2025, I must mention a Japanese manga. So this book, it's a manga called The Future I Saw. It was first published in 1999 by Roy Tazuki. Roy Tazuki is a pen name. The author claimed to have the ability to see the future through dreams. Despite diligently creating manga for over 20 years, Tazuki remained obscure. Nobody knew who the author was, and the book sold poorly, resulting in few copies being available. Unexpectedly, over a decade later, the manga gained sudden fame after the 2011 Japanese earthquake. On March 11th, 2011, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake struck northeastern Japan, triggering a tsunami and a nuclear disaster in Fukushima, with over 18,000 people dead or missing. Fans discovered that the manga's cover had predicted a great disaster in March 2011 and even depicted tsunami scenes. So this led to speculation that the author had foreseen the March 11th earthquake. And during this time, an impersonator claiming to be Tazuki began making false predictions and appearing on TV. Now, the real author, who led a quiet offline life, didn't know about this. She only learned about it through relatives. She was shocked and felt compelled to clarify the matter and published The Future I Saw Complete Edition in 2021. So on the left is the original copy, on the right is the complete edition. And in this edition, she described a vivid dream she had on July 5th, 2021, in which she envisioned a disaster in July 2025. She saw the Pacific Ocean south of Japan would see rising water levels. From an aerial view, she saw a sudden eruption in the sea between Japan and the Philippines, creating massive waves that spread outward. The resulting tsunami was 3 times greater than the 2011 earthquake. Landforms were altered, compressing and raising the terrain, devastating Pacific Rim countries. Regions from Hong Kong and Taiwan to the Philippines became connected. And she said, after the disaster, the world welcomes a brighter future. Other events Tazuki predicted in her book included COVID in 2020 and Freddie Mercury's death in 1991 and Princess Diana's death. She also predicted a return of COVID